Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is when you see this. This is Jamal Edwards from the Jamal Cast. Actually, the Jamal Cast hasn't even launched yet, but I'm so excited about it. I can't wait to get started sharing my opinions about everything because that's what the Jamal Cast is about. It's opinions about everything, and I got something to say about everything. This is actually a special little segment I'm going to do for my existing friends and followers, just to give them a sense of what I'm trying to do, and also to give me a chance to kind of practice, because I've done a podcast before, but this is going to be more than just a podcast. I imagine there will be video like this. There'll be some digital content, meetings, seminars. I'm going to get back into public speaking, all that kind of stuff. And so this is actually a new experience for me because it's expanding beyond anything else I've ever done. And quite frankly, it's just going to be me talking about what's going on for me in the world and what I'm thinking about what's happening to me and others I care about in the world. So let's get started. Now, to make sure this is not too heavy, because we got a lot of shit to talk about. Yes, I do cuss sometimes. I'm going to start with something really fun. And since I've been into podcasting and looking into launching the Jamal Cast, I have been listening to other podcasters and other folks on social media who are sharing their views, their opinions, their content, that kind of thing. And I came across this podcast from my friend April Patterson. It's called the A Podcast, A_podcast. You can find her on Instagram. I think she's going to be launching her podcast soon as well. And she did an Instagram TV video yesterday, sort of following after one I did yesterday. So I'm glad to know I inspired folks. It's great to be an inspiration. And she asked a question on her Instagram TV video. And the question was this: why do women expect men to take care of them, especially to buy them stuff, that kind of thing? Especially women who don't know men. You know, you go out on a date and you expect them to do all this stuff and buy you this, purses, bags, and whatever. And she was asking that question, I think, from a genuine desire to understand, because after hearing her video, I talked with her via direct messages on Instagram, and she was saying she really has a lot of friends who actually have their own stuff, but for some reason they want guys to buy things for them, and they feel like that's a source of validation and pride for them. And she really just doesn't understand it. And this is something she's trying to understand because these women are her friends. And so she was asking guys and others to answer that question because she doesn't know. Well, as it turns out, nobody else really seemed to know either. And I have to be the first one to say, I don't know. I had some theories, I had some ideas. Sometimes I think it has to do with some self-worth, sometimes some bad habits have been passed down from people that have raised you or been a part of your upbringing. Sometimes it's just copying what you see on TV, which is never a good idea most of the time. Those are my thoughts, but honestly, I don't know. I'm curious. I don't really get it either. I mean, I like to do nice things for women or anybody I care about, but I really don't get why women would expect men to be paying their bills and doing all these kind of things for them. I understand when it comes to showing some support. Obviously, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, you want to make sure you're able to provide and take care of your spouse, your partner, your mate, whatever. But in this day and age, as it probably should have been all along, that ought to be mutual, right? Nobody should be running around expecting somebody else to do for them something they won't do for themselves, number one, and they're not willing to do for anybody else. I think that's reciprocity, right? So, April, I don't have a damn answer, but I thought it was a good question. I thought I'd throw it out to other folks to see what they think, and I thought it'd be a nice, lighthearted, fun way to start out this show, as opposed to digging into some of the deeper topics that I have to talk about, which range from politics to race, religion, and all that other kind of stuff. So if you don't want to hear about that kind of stuff, now's the time for you to drop this video that you may be watching or listening to, because I got some stuff to say about it, and I don't care if you don't like it. I hope you do, but I really don't care. I'm not going to change my opinion because, again, this is my opinion. It's not maybe fact. I think my opinions are factually based, and they're based on my experience, but they're my opinions, and if you don't like it, then that's fine. As Les Brown says all the time, your opinion about me is none of my business, right? And if you're tuning into this video or this podcast, then you must be interested in my opinions, because I'm surely not sending this to people and saying, hey, listen to this if you don't want to listen to it. If you don't want to listen to it, turn it off. But if you do want to listen, keep listening. All right. So today marked the 3rd anniversary of my fraternity brother. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, founded in 1911. And look, Colin Kaepernick's 3-year anniversary for the day he first started taking a knee during the singing, playing, whatever, of the national anthem while he was in the NFL. As you know, since he did that, he's been fired from the NFL and hasn't played a game ever since for a variety of reasons, most of which are because the NFL and other folks have a difficult time understanding why he did what he did, and particularly understanding why he did it as a black man. I'm sorry, that's my opinion, that's my belief, because otherwise there have been all kinds of peaceful protest of things that have happened in this country. He's protesting systemic racism and discrimination, both toward people of color and immigrant status, women, homosexuality, gay marriage, people who are opposed to that. He's protesting a lot of things, and he's trying to make the point that the system is the problem, and the system really is one that was created by and perpetuated by the United States of America. Now, I'm an American. I love my country. I'm proud of my country, and I would serve my country. I registered for the selective service when I turned 17. Never got called to do it, but I did ROTC in college and in high school. And if I ever had to go serve my country, I would do it proudly, without question, without a doubt, unlike some folks that some of y'all know that have bone spurs and things like that. So, he's protesting a system because this country does have a legacy of institutionalizing, not just allowing, but institutionalizing discrimination. And it went on for many, many years in terms of race, sex, gender, sexuality, you name it. This country has sort of made a business out of it. And I say a business because when you think about it, going back to slavery, the cotton business, the paper business, the tobacco business, all those businesses that have made people very, very wealthy, passing down wealth from generation to generation, were made on the backs of slaves. They were made on the basis with the support of discrimination that was institutionalized. The reason why men still make 3 times, sometimes more, certainly 30 cents more per on a dollar than women do is because we've had these centuries, decades of women being considered homemakers only and being relegated to the house. And we still have men who believe that kind of stuff running a lot of these businesses and setting all these policies and even passing these laws. And that's one of the reasons why women are still struggling in this country, where even though we have laws that seem to suggest they shouldn't, they are, because there are these systems that have been set up over decades, sometimes centuries, that are perpetuating, not just allowing or tolerating, but really are perpetuating some of these problems. And I feel like that's what he's protesting. Now, me personally, I'm not I don't think I will be a guy that's going to kneel for this, the national anthem. That's not my way of protesting, but that was his way of protesting, and I think is a valid way. Fortunately, since he's done it over the last 3 years, he's doing fine, like any Kappa would do. He's a noob, and he got the big deal with Nike, and Nike's been supporting him. I bought a few more myself. I know other folks said they were going to stop wearing them, never buy them again, burn them. But every time I go to the gym, I see a lot of Nike, so I think those folks were really full of it. But anyway, I wanted to say congratulations, Colin. We appreciate you. We love you. We support you. Happy 3-year anniversary. Thank you for standing for justice. Thank you for standing for what's right, even when it might have cost you everything. That's what leadership is about. Now, since we're on the topic of America, I want to also talk about this whole issue with the Statue of Liberty. Did you hear what the director of the Trump administration's immigration policy said about the Statue of Liberty? I mean, literally, he has taken that famous quote and bastardized it in the worst possible way, suggesting when the Statue of Liberty writes that you should send me your poor, he's only looking for the ones that are going to come here and stand on their own 2 feet or not be a burden on this country. Well, first of all, this is a country that's taken people who were standing on their own 2 feet and made them into folks that needed to be dependent on this country. Number one, right? Those were slaves. Even when we invaded the country and took it from the Native Americans, they were doing just fine. As a result of what happened, they were not doing, or maybe still are not doing, as well as they probably would have done had we not interfered. So to suggest that this country somehow or another only wants folks who can walk in the door and be productive citizens is ridiculous. I mean, we've accepted immigrants from all over the world for centuries, and those immigrants have come here sometimes poor, seeking shelter, trying to get away from abuse and tyranny and other kinds of things, just like we did when we ran away from Great Britain, so to speak. We didn't run, we just separated ourselves because we're already across the ocean. But nonetheless, people have come here all the time in all kinds of circumstances, financial conditions, and with all kinds of different backgrounds and experiences. And this country has welcomed them. They become a fabric, a part of our fabric, and made it better. And to suggest that somehow or another it is not right that people continue to come here unless they are able to kind of support themselves without the need of our government's assistance is just ridiculous. Our former Secretary of State, I don't know if you saw, Anderson Cooper interviewed her on AC 360 on CNN, and she had a lot to say about it. You want to see what she said? Here it is. I don't know if you can see this. I don't have my video editing, but here we go.
Over what was then Czechoslovakia.
Do you remember her?
And Secretary, when you heard the president's immigration official, Ken Cuccinelli, say that the poem on the Statue of Liberty and all it represents is only for people who can, quote, stand on their own 2 feet. As someone who sailed into New York Harbor as a young immigrant, what went through your mind?
I thought it was completely un-American, and I can tell you, I've been a refugee twice. Once from the Nazis, and we were in England, and then we came to the United States when the communists took over in Czechoslovakia. And I think that it is one of the most un-American things that I've ever heard, and I will always remember seeing the Statue of Liberty as we sailed by. And my father used to say that when we were in England, people would say, "We're so sorry, your country's been taken over by a terrible dictator. You're welcome here, and when are you going home?" And when we came to the United States, people said, "We're so sorry, your country's been taken over by a terrible system. You're welcome here, and when will you become a citizen?" And my father said, that's what made America a different country. And now we are forgetting that great history of our country.
Now, listen, I think she got that right. Obviously, she knows what she's talking about. She's a former Secretary of State. But seriously, these folks need to stop. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going on about all the things that I don't like about the Trump administration, because I have a few more things to say about that, specifically on topic based on what happened in the news today. But seriously, I mean, I don't care what your politics are. I will admit up front, I am not one who did vote for, nor will I ever vote for Donald J. Trump for president. I'm not a supporter of his, so if that's what you are, you don't like the fact that I'm not, then you might want to stop listening. But at the end of the day, I actually can understand the positions of the Republican Party, at least the positions that used to be the positions of the Republican Party. I don't agree with all of them, but a lot of them I understood. There are people like John McCain, who I immensely respected. I didn't agree with a lot of things that he did. Ronald Reagan, I actually respected. George H.W. Bush, I respected. Didn't agree with everything he did. I can understand where they're coming from, and but this dude, I don't get, and his people, I don't get. Speaking of his people and some of the things that they're doing, now, did you also hear about what's going on in Israel? And now, I will say up front, for all my Jewish friends, I love my Jewish friends. I am a minister, if you didn't know that, and although I'm trained in the Christian tradition, particularly in the Baptist church, I was also trained at Morehouse College, where our dean taught us about the beautiful gift of ecumenism, which is essentially a view of the world religions such that we understand that there's not one path to God, there's multiple paths to God, and nobody has a monopoly on God and what's right and what's good and that kind of thing in the world. It actually makes complete sense to me. So I respect the Jewish faith and tradition. I respect the people of Israel. I hope the conflict is resolved over there at some point. And I totally empathize with them, as well as with many other folks who are struggling through religious battles and warfare. However, I have a huge problem with, essentially the foreign minister and now the prime minister have essentially said, well, two of our congressmen, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, cannot come to Israel because they have said things that he found offensive, the people of Israel may have found offensive, or that they disagree with, or found to be critical of Israel. Well, I will also say some of the things they've said they probably could have said differently. They probably could have chosen different words and ways to express them. But at the end of the day, the beauty of this country is that we don't get to say, you don't get to say what you think, and everything that you say needs to be perfectly thought out, come out perfectly. We have free speech here, and quite frankly, it's something we proselytize around the world that everybody ought to have and respect, including Israel. And so I don't understand why they're being excluded from visiting Israel because of something they said or did, number one. Number two, I don't understand why anybody would think that is helpful to advancing their cause. If you only want to live in a country or a world with people who agree with you, particularly if you're a religious, faith-based nation or a group of people where almost every religion encourages folks to share with the world, share at least their views with the world, try to have conversations and do things that would help folks come to find God, then you can't accomplish that if you're closing doors, if you're building walls, if you're shutting people out. You can't have a conversation if you won't talk to people. You cannot understand folks if you won't look at them. You cannot have discourse if you're not willing to try to understand their point of view. So I certainly hope they'll reconsider. Of course, from my mouth to God's ears, I don't know if they're listening to this, but if you are, I really hope you'll reconsider, because I think it would be a good idea to open your doors, let our congresswomen in. And if you feel so strongly about your beliefs and the integrity of your nation and your views, then show them that. Open your doors, let them come in, let them see what you're about, let them see how beautiful Israel is. I've heard wonderful things. I've never been. I look forward to going. I have some friends that go to Tel Aviv all the time. And, show them the beauty of Israel. Show them the beauty of the Israelite people, and show them the beauty of Judaism and all of that stuff. Show it to them, and maybe they might change their mind. If not, they might at least find some additional common respect and ways to have dialogue with you so that you can have a productive conversation and that we can actually come together. But shutting them out, building walls, and basically excluding people is not a good way to accomplish diplomacy. It's not a good way to accomplish spreading your faith tradition. It's not a good way to accomplish friendship or anything else, quite frankly. So I hope they reconsider that. Now, the folks in Israel apparently are not the only ones that are having some issues. India is losing it too. I don't know what's going on. I can't say India as a whole, but I also read today in the New York Times that there is an entire state in India that has been stripped of its special status. It formerly had some special status, its own sovereignty, so to speak. Sort of like the same kind of special status we give to every of the 50 states in the United States, where we do have this federal government, but we respect the sovereignty of every state in our union. And there's certain things the federal government is just not going to tell them to do, and they kind of protect those rights. It's the 10th Amendment, all that kind of stuff. Well, they stripped the state of Jammu and Kashmir of its special status, including its right to have its own constitution and flag. That sounds kind of political, right? But the way they did it, apparently they have folks barricaded, locked in their homes. It's now a militarized zone. Folks can't go outside. Folks apparently are in cages. That is ridiculous. It's deplorable. It really scares me to see this happening in other countries around the world, because it's sort of some advanced version of what seems to be starting around here sometimes. It's almost it's like if we told the state of Washington, the state of Hawaii, oh, never mind that whole statehood thing, never mind that whole 10th Amendment where we said you have some sovereignty and independence and we won't completely dominate you. We changed our mind. We're just going to take everything back. And by the way, we're going to lock you up, put you in cages and that kind of stuff. Well, again, think about this. It does sound familiar, doesn't it? I live in Texas. We're sitting in my casita, otherwise known as the guest house, down here in Austin, Texas, not too far from El Paso, where some similar things seem to be happening as well. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I don't know if you are, but I would check it out and see what's going on and be informed and see if you can help. Now, on to some good stuff. Now, there is still good in the world. I just saw this article about the Southwest Airlines crew that sang happy birthday to a 101-year-old veteran on the flight. I think he was flying to Orlando, Florida. They found out about his birthday, and the whole crew decided to sing him happy birthday because he turned 101 years old. Now, number one, I'm a big fan of American Airlines. I'm starting to like Delta Airlines too. The Delta Airlines Sky Club here in Austin is amazing. If you fly to Austin and you can get on a Delta flight, or fly out of Austin and you can get on a Delta flight, I think you might enjoy it. I mean, whatever airline you normally fly on, maybe you might want to switch to the Delta flight. I've got some pictures of it up on my Instagram page. You might want to check that out. It's an amazing club, but I digress. Southwest is pretty good too for family travel, particularly with my son. I like to use Southwest Airlines, and I think they've got that whole kind of make you feel good and have a smooth kind of experience down pat, quite frankly. I just personally like to pick my own seat, or not pick my own seat, like pick it before I get on the plane and know that I'm going to have my seat, hopefully in first class, by the way. So it's a lot of reasons why I don't do Southwest that often. But yeah, these folks sung this man happy birthday, the whole crew, on the airplane, and apparently, of course, passengers joined in. Isn't that wonderful? So even though things are kind of screwed up, and it's easy to notice those things that are screwed up because we draw our attention a lot of times to the things that are going wrong in the world without appreciating and looking and noticing the things that are going right, there are a lot of things going right. Now, you don't have to go that far to find that out. I didn't have to go that far to find it out, I'll say, because in addition to what happened on the Southwest Airlines flight a little while ago, one of my buddies at the gym told me he just got back from a little road trip vacation he took, where he basically drove around the state of Colorado, going through all the mountains and that kind of stuff, and just exploring it. Just because he could and because he wanted to. But apparently something crossed the road while he was going through one of those rural mountain area roads. And he he actually did flip over into a ditch in his truck, and couldn't get out of it. I mean, honestly, the pictures that he sent me, when he sent them to me to explain why I hadn't seen him in the gym for a while, I was really concerned that he would be really seriously injured, and I was surprised he was texting me, because from looking at the car and the position of the car, he should have been dead. As it turns out, the car almost had no scratches on it. When he took it to get checked out after he finally got out of that ditch, he had no scratches. The mechanic said there was really no structural damage or anything like that, other than ordinary wear and tear. But what's interesting is that, he needed a lot of help to get out of that ditch because of the way he was positioned. So I think they called a tow truck that had like 3 different cables, and they called a fire truck. They called a whole bunch of people to help him get out of that ditch. And he said they took like 3 hours trying to get his car out of that ditch. And after they were done, he asked how much it was going to cost. He thought it was going to be hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars. I think it was like $80 he had to pay the tow truck driver. Everybody else just kind of rallied around to help and said, hey, we got you. We're here to help you. And that kind of stuff. They didn't want any money. So to thank them, because he, of course, was continuing his vacation and he stayed in this small town for a couple of nights, he went and bought pies and took them to all the folks that helped them, and to say thank you, which I thought was really, really sweet and really, really kind. Well, to top that off and show you how cool and kind these people are in this small town in Colorado, one of the folks he took a pie to came and left a thank you note at his Airbnb or wherever he was staying door. So there are some really good people out there in this world that will care and will help you when you need them. You just have to believe in them and stop looking at all this negativity that's going on. So anyway, I know I talked about a lot of that negativity, but I wanted to end the note or the show, this video, whatever it's going to be, with something positive. And I just found that to be a really delightful story. He told me this morning, after we finished working out, about all the stuff that happened, and it just reminded me of the goodness of people in America and pretty much everywhere else. Folks really do want to connect love and support each other. And if we open our doors, open our arms, open our hearts, people will step in, love us, and help us. So anyway, that's it for me for this impromptu, random, rough attempt at a Jamal Cast video before the Jamal Cast even becomes a real thing. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something interesting about it. If you liked it, great, let me know. If you didn't like it, that's fine too. You can let me know. It's probably not going to change anything, but you can let me know. I welcome people to disagree or express their opinions. I just have enough sense to know that your opinion about me is none of my business. It's your business. So you can share it with me if you want to, but it's not going to really change anything I think about me or anything else. Now, if you want to have a conversation about something, by all means, if we disagree, you want to kind of do a video with me or maybe do a podcast with me or a phone call. I have some equipment. I'm not using it right now, but I do have some equipment for my other podcast that I can use to facilitate that. If you disagree, you want to have a discourse or a discussion about some stuff, then I totally welcome that. But if you want to just send me a message to tell me that you hate my guts or don't like what I said, well, whatever. That's probably not going to go very far. In any case, I hope you enjoyed it. I really would like to hear from those folks in particular. But most importantly, I appreciate you and thank you for listening, taking the time to really spend some time with me. And I hope you enjoyed it enough to look forward to what's going to come when I actually finally get the whole show really together. So that's going to happen real soon. All right. Hope you all having a great night, great morning, great day, wherever you are. Cheers, love, blessings, everything else to you, from me. Until the next time, this is Jamal signing off from the Jamal Cast. Soon to come. Bye.